My name is Emily Chen, and for 4 years, I've been the invisible force behind my brother's billion-dollar success story. Kevin Chen, tech founder, Forbes 30 under 30 Silicon Valley darling, built his company NexCore Analytics from a Stanford dorm room idea into a data analytics powerhouse valued at $1.2 billion. He's given TED Talks. He's been profiled in Wired, Fast Company, and Bloomberg. He's everything Silicon Valley celebrates. Young, brilliant, disruptive. He's also completely full of shit. What the press doesn't know, what nobody knows except me, Kevin, and our lawyers, is that NexCore would have died in year 2 if I hadn't written a $150 million check to save it. Through a complex web of shell companies and intermediary funds, I own 73% of NexCore Analytics. Kevin owns 18%. The remaining 9% is split among early employees and investors. I am, by any reasonable measure, the true owner of his company. But Kevin tells everyone he's the founder who bootstrapped his way to success. He tells reporters about his vision and his determination. He tells investors about his risk-taking and his innovative approach. He never mentions that his little sister, the one he calls cute and adorable whenever she talks about her consulting hobby, is the reason he's not bankrupt. At family dinners, the dynamic is predictable. Kevin holds court, talking about NexCore's latest client wins or funding rounds. Everyone listens, fascinated. Our parents beam with pride. When I try to contribute to business conversations, Kevin smiles indulgently. Emily's doing her own little thing. She has a consulting practice. It's sweet. Sweet. That's his favorite word for me. What Kevin doesn't know is that my little consulting practice, Meridian Strategic Advisors, generates $40 million annually in revenue. I have 28 employees. We advise Fortune 500 companies on strategic acquisitions and market entry. My personal net worth, including my stake in NexCore, $180 million. I'm 31 years old. But at every family gathering, I'm still Kevin's little sister who plays businesswoman. I've stayed quiet for 4 years, letting him take credit, letting him perform success while I built real success in the shadows. I stayed quiet because I wanted to see if he'd ever acknowledge what I did for him, if gratitude would ever overcome ego. For years, he never acknowledged it once, until his engagement party when everything finally came crashing down. Kevin and I grew up in Palo Alto, children of 2 successful engineers who worked at Apple in the 90s. We were classic Silicon Valley kids, competitive, achievement-oriented, obsessed with building things. Kevin was 3 years older and naturally brilliant. He could code before most kids could read chapter books. He won science fairs. He got into Stanford on a full scholarship. He was, by every measure, the golden child. I was the achiever. I worked twice as hard as Kevin for half the recognition. I studied relentlessly. I learned business and finance because I wasn't naturally gifted at coding. I got into Wharton's undergrad business program, graduated top of my class, spent 3 years at McKinsey, then got my MBA from Harvard. By the time I was 26, I'd saved $400,000 and started my consulting firm. By the time I was 27, Meridian Strategic was generating $8 million annually. But none of that mattered to my family, because Kevin had started NexCore. Kevin founded NexCore in his junior year at Stanford. The pitch was simple. Use machine learning to analyze customer behavior data and predict purchasing patterns for e-commerce companies. Help online retailers understand what customers would buy before the customers knew themselves. It was a good idea. Kevin raised $2.5 million in seed funding from a small VC firm. He hired 5 engineers. He built a prototype. Then reality hit. The technology was harder than Kevin anticipated. The sales cycle was longer. The burn rate was catastrophic. Within 18 months, NexCore had burned through all $2.5 million and had exactly 2 paying customers generating $140,000 in annual revenue. Kevin needed $25 million to survive. Minimum. He pitched every VC firm in Silicon Valley. They all said no. The technology was promising but unproven. The revenue was too low. The team was too inexperienced. Kevin was too arrogant. By month 22, NexCore was 6 weeks from bankruptcy. That's when Kevin called me. It was 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my apartment in New York, working on a client presentation. I need your help. I could hear the desperation in his voice. Kevin never asked for help. What's wrong? The company's dying. We're out of money. I've pitched everyone. Nobody will invest. If I can't raise $25 million in the next 6 weeks, we're done. I flew to San Francisco that weekend. Kevin showed me the books. It was worse than he'd described. Current cash, $180,000. Monthly burn, $320,000. Runway 3 weeks, maybe 4. Customer pipeline, promising but 9 to 12 months from closing. Technology, revolutionary but 6 months from being production ready. Why won't anyone invest? I asked. They say I'm too inexperienced. They say the market isn't proven. They say the technology is too risky. He looked at me desperately. But it works. The technology works. We just need time to prove it. I spent the next week doing due diligence. I interviewed his engineers. I reviewed the code. I analyzed the market. I spoke with his 2 customers. Kevin was right. The technology was revolutionary. The market was massive. He just needed capital and adult supervision. I'll give you $50 million, I said. His jaw dropped. You have $50 million? I have access to it. But there are conditions. Anything. First, I own 73% of the company. You dilute down to 18%. The math is simple. I'm valuing NexCore at $18 million based on current revenue and technology. My $50 million gives me majority control. 73%? Emily, that's my company. That's bankrupt in 3 weeks. Do you want to own 100% of nothing or 18% of something that might become huge? He swallowed hard. What else? Second, I installed 2 board members. A CFO who knows how to manage burn rate and a COO who knows how to scale operations. You're taking over my company. I'm saving your company. And here's the third condition. Nobody knows about this. The investment comes through shell companies and intermediary funds. As far as the world knows, you raised a Series A from anonymous investors. You stay as CEO and public face. I stay invisible. Why? Because I want to see if you'll succeed when you have real support. I want to see if the technology is as good as you think. And honestly, I want to see if you'll ever acknowledge what I did for you. I'll acknowledge it. Of course I will. Then we have a deal. We signed the paperwork 3 days later. My $50 million went into NexCore's bank account. Kevin stayed as CEO. I installed Sarah Martinez as CFO and James Park as COO. 2 executives I'd worked with who knew how to turn around struggling companies. And I waited to see if Kevin would keep his promise. With my $50 million and Sarah's financial discipline, NexCore transformed overnight. Sarah cut the burn rate by 60%. She renegotiated vendor contracts. She restructured the team to focus on revenue-generating activities instead of speculative R&D. James built an actual sales process. He hired experienced enterprise salespeople who knew how to close 7-figure deals. He created marketing materials that actually explained what NexCore did. Within 6 months, NexCore signed 8 new enterprise clients. Within 12 months, annual revenue hit $12 million. Within 18 months, NexCore raised a legitimate Series B of $40 million at a $200 million valuation. My $50 million investment was suddenly worth $146 million on paper. And Kevin took full credit for everything. I knew we just needed to execute, he told TechCrunch in an interview. I brought in the right people, made the tough decisions and focused on what matters. That's what founders do. He never mentioned that bringing in the right people meant I'd installed Sarah and James. That making tough decisions meant Sarah had overruled him on budget cuts. That focusing on what matters meant James had completely rebuilt his go-to-market strategy. At family dinners, Kevin's success story grew more elaborate. I had to make some really hard calls in year 2, he'd say. Cut costs, restructure the team, really focus on our core mission. That's when everything turned around. Our parents would nod admiringly. Kevin's always been so determined, Mom would say. He never gives up, Dad would add. And I'd sit there knowing I'd written the check that made all of it possible. Meanwhile, my own business was thriving. Meridian Strategic Advisors had grown from $8 million to $40 million in annual revenue. We'd expanded from 6 employees to 28. We'd advised 3 Fortune 100 companies on major acquisitions totaling $2.7 billion. I'd personally led the consulting engagement that helped a pharmaceutical company structure a $1.1 billion acquisition. My fee, $8.4 million. But at family dinners when I'd mention working on a major acquisition, Kevin would smile. Emily's doing some consulting work. It's cute how dedicated she is to her little practice. Little practice. My company generated more profit than NexCore. But I said nothing. I wanted to see if he'd ever acknowledge reality without being forced to. 3 years passed. Then 4. NexCore's valuation hit $1.2 billion. Kevin was invited to speak at tech conferences. He was profiled in major business publications. He was living his best life as Silicon Valley's newest success story. And he still called my work cute. Kevin got engaged to Madison Pierce, a marketing executive at a major tech company. They'd been dating for 8 months. She was beautiful, ambitious, and exactly the kind of partner Silicon Valley expected Kevin to have. The engagement party was held at a Napa Valley winery. Expensive, elegant, with 150 guests including VCs, tech executives and family. I arrived at 2 o'clock wearing a simple dress from Nordstrom. Kevin and Madison were greeting guests near the entrance. Emily. Kevin hugged me. Glad you could make it. I know you're super busy with your consulting thing. Wouldn't miss it. Madison smiled warmly. Kevin's told me so much about you. It's so great that you're building your own little business. Girl power. She said it with genuine enthusiasm like I'd opened an Etsy shop. Thanks, I said simply. The party flowed around me. Tech industry people talking about valuations and IPOs. VCs discussing portfolio companies. Kevin's Stanford friends reminiscing about dorm room days. I stood near the bar sipping wine, watching my brother tell the story of NexCore's founding for the 100th time. We were down to our last $50,000, he was saying to a group of investors. Everyone said we were done. But I believed in the technology. I made the hard call to double down, to hire the right people to execute flawlessly. That's what separated us from the startups that fail. He believed in the technology. With my $50 million, he made the hard call. That I financed. He hired the right people. That I installed. A venture capitalist asked, what was the turning point? When did you know you'd make it? When our Series A closed, Kevin said confidently. We raised $50 million from a group of anonymous investors who believed in our vision. That gave us the runway to prove the technology and scale the team. Anonymous investors. That was me. Your sister's here, someone pointed out. Does she work in tech? Kevin laughed. Emily? No, she's doing her own thing. Consulting. She helps small businesses with strategy stuff. It's not really tech, but she's passionate about it. Small businesses. I advised Fortune 500 companies. That's sweet, Madison said, taking Kevin's hand. It's so important to follow your passions, even if it's not Silicon Valley scale. Even if it's not Silicon Valley scale. My company generated $40 million in revenue. I finished my wine and ordered another. The party continued. Toasts were made. Kevin gave a speech thanking everyone who'd supported his journey. His parents, his Stanford professors, his early employees, his investors. He didn't mention me. Then came the moment that changed everything. Kevin was talking to a group of guests about NexCore's future. We're positioning for an IPO within 18 months, he was saying. Valuation should hit $2 billion easily. I own 18%, so we're talking about a $360 million outcome for me personally. Someone asked, who owns the rest? Early investors and employees, Kevin said vaguely. The Series A group took a big stake, but I still control the company's direction. I walked over to the group. Kevin, can I talk to you for a minute? Sure. But make it quick, I'm in the middle of. It's about the company ownership structure. I thought we should clarify some things. He looked uncomfortable. This really isn't the time. I think it is. Madison appeared at his side. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, Kevin said quickly. Emily just likes to involve herself in business conversations even though she doesn't really understand how tech companies work. The group chuckled politely. Stop playing businesswoman, Kevin said with a laugh. Your consulting isn't real business, Let the adults talk about real companies. The words hung in the air. 4 years of being called cute and sweet, and being told I had a little practice crystallized in that moment. I smiled politely. You're right, Kevin. What do I know about real business? I turned to walk away. That's when Robert Chen appeared. No relation to us, but the chairman of NexCore's board of directors. One of the 2 board members I'd installed 4 years ago. Miss Chen. Robert approached with a puzzled expression. I didn't realize you'd be here. Did Kevin tell you I needed to speak with you about the Q3 board meeting? The group of investors went quiet. No, he didn't mention it, I said. I'm sorry, do you 2 know each other? Madison asked. Robert looked confused by the question. Know each other? Miss Chen is our majority shareholder and board member. She owns 73% of NexCore Analytics. The silence was absolute. Kevin's face drained of color. Robert, what are you? I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn, Robert continued, still looking confused by everyone's reaction. But Miss Chen and I have the Q3 strategy session scheduled for Monday. I wanted to confirm her availability. Every single person in the group was staring at me now. I'm available Monday, I said calmly. Excellent. We need to discuss the IPO timeline and your preferences for board composition post-IPO. Given your majority stake, your input is essential. Madison's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the patio. Kevin looked like he might vomit. Emily, I can explain. Explain what? I asked sweetly. That you've spent 4 years telling everyone you bootstrapped your success while I own 73% of your company? That you've called my work cute, while I wrote a $150 million check to save you from bankruptcy? The group of investors was frantically pulling out their phones, presumably looking up NexCore's ownership structure. $150 million? Madison whispered. Well, $50 million initially, I clarified. It's worth about $150 million now given the $1.2 billion valuation. Simple math. 73% of $1.2 billion is $876 million, but we need to account for liquidation preferences and debt, so my stake is conservatively worth $150 million in a sale scenario. I turned back to Robert. Monday works perfectly. We should discuss whether the IPO timeline is aggressive given market conditions. I have concerns about Q4 volatility affecting our valuation. I completely agree, Robert said, seemingly oblivious to the drama unfolding. I'll have Sarah prepare the analysis. Perfect. Please have her include the sensitivity analysis we discussed. I want to see scenarios ranging from $900 million to $1.8 billion valuations with varying market conditions. I smiled at Kevin and his speechless fiancée. Congratulations on your engagement. We'll talk Monday about the company. I walked away, leaving my brother standing frozen among a group of investors who were now very, very interested in asking him questions about his anonymous investors. My phone started ringing within 20 minutes. I ignored the first dozen calls, all from Kevin. Then I started getting calls from other numbers. Madison. Our parents. Sarah NexCore Siva. James the Silva. I turned my phone off and drove back to my hotel in San Francisco. The next morning I turned my phone back on to find 63 missed calls and 47 text messages. Kevin, and we need to talk immediately, Kevin. Why would you do that, Kevin? You humiliated me in front of everyone, Kevin. Call me now. Madison, I can't believe Kevin lied to me about this, Madison. Did you really give him $50 million? Madison, does he actually own his company or do you? Mom, Emily, what happened at the party? Kevin won't explain. Dad, call your mother. Sarah, see, Emily, we should probably sync before Monday's board meeting. I responded to exactly one message, Sarah's. Agreed. Let's meet Sunday at 3 p.m. Prepare a full financial overview and 3 IPO timing scenarios. Also bring documentation on Kevin's performance as CEO over the past 4 years. Then I went to the hotel gym and worked out for 2 hours. Kevin showed up at my hotel at 6 p.m. on Saturday. The front desk called my room. Miss Chen, there's a Kevin Chen here asking to see you. He says he's your brother. Send him up. Kevin arrived at my door looking like he hadn't slept. His hair was disheveled. He was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Can we talk? Come in. He walked into my suite, a corner room with views of the bay, booked through a corporate account Kevin didn't know I had. Nice room, he said. Meridian has a corporate travel budget. We stay in nice hotels when advising clients. Right. Your little consulting practice. Is that why you're here? To insult my work some more? No. God, no. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I said yesterday. Which part? The part where you told me to stop playing businesswoman? Or the part where you said my consulting isn't real business? He flinched. All of it. I was being an asshole. Yes. You were. But did you have to expose me like that? In front of everyone? At my engagement party? Expose you? Kevin, I told the truth. Robert exposed you by acknowledging reality. I just didn't contradict him. Everyone's calling me. Investors want to know why I lied about being the founder. Madison is furious that I didn't tell her about your investment. My Stanford friends think I'm a fraud. Are you? What? Are you a fraud? You told everyone you bootstrapped your success. You told reporters you made the tough calls. You told investors you controlled the company. Were those lies? I didn't technically lie. I just didn't mention certain details. Like the detail where your sister owns 73% of your company? You told me to keep it quiet. You wanted to stay anonymous. I wanted to stay out of the press. I didn't ask you to claim sole credit for decisions other people made. I didn't ask you to call my work cute and not real business. He sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. You're right. I took credit for things you did. I minimized your success while celebrating mine. I was a complete asshole. Yes. But, you have to understand, it was embarrassing. Having my little sister save my company. Having to admit I couldn't do it alone. Having to acknowledge that I needed you. And that embarrassment was more important than gratitude? No. I was grateful. I didn't want to look weak. So you made me look weak instead. Called my work a hobby. Dismissed me in front of investors and family for 4 years. I'm sorry. Are you sorry or are you scared? Because there's a difference. Both, he admitted. I'm sorry I treated you that way. And I'm scared because everyone now knows the truth and I don't know what happens next. I sat down in the chair across from him. What happens next is we go into that board meeting Monday and discuss whether you should continue as CEO. His head snapped up. What? You heard me. Robert, Sarah, James, and I are going to discuss your performance as CEO and whether NexCore needs different leadership going forward. You can't fire me. I built this company. I own 73% of this company, Kevin. I can do whatever the board votes to do. And since I control the board, that means I can do whatever I want. This is insane. I'm your brother. You were my brother before you spent 4 years dismissing me. Before you called my work fake. Before you took credit for my investment and my board members' expertise. So what? This is revenge. You're going to destroy me because I hurt your feelings. This isn't revenge. This is a business decision. You're the CEO of a company in which I have a $150 million stake. I need to decide if you're the right person to lead it to a successful IPO. Of course I'm the right person. I built this. Did you? Let's review what actually happened. You had a good idea and built a prototype. Then you ran out of money. I gave you $50 million. Sarah, my CFO, cut your burn rate and made you profitable. James, my COO, built your sales process and closed your major clients. What exactly did you contribute in the past 4 years besides being the face of the company? I set the vision. I made strategic decisions. Name one strategic decision you made in the past 4 years that Sarah and James didn't actually implement. He was silent. Kevin, here's the reality. You're a decent product visionary. You understand the technology. But you're a terrible operator. Sarah and James have been running the company while you've been giving speeches and interviews. The question is whether we continue that arrangement or whether we need someone else. You're really going to fire me. I'm going to consider all options. Maybe we bring in a new CEO and you become Chief Technology Officer. Maybe we keep you as CEO but bring in a president to handle operations. Maybe we promote Sarah or James. Or maybe you prove to me that you actually understand what you've been doing wrong and commit to changing. What do you want me to do? I want you to acknowledge reality. Publicly. To your investors, to Madison, to our family. I want you to tell the truth about who saved NexCore and who's been running it. That will destroy my reputation. Your reputation is already destroyed. Everyone at that party heard Robert explain that I own 73% of your company. The question is whether you control the narrative or whether you let gossip control it. He stared at me for a long moment. And if I do that, if I tell everyone the truth, will you let me stay as CEO? That depends on how convincing you are on Monday. Monday morning, I walked into NexCore's office for the first time in 4 years. The building was nice. Modern, open concept with the obligatory ping-pong tables and cold brew coffee. Built with my money, managed by my executives, celebrated as Kevin's achievement. The conference room was already full. Robert Chen, Sarah Martinez, James Park, and Kevin. "Good morning," I said, sitting at the head of the table. Kevin looked like he still hadn't slept. Sarah and James looked cautious. Robert looked confused by the tension. "Let's start with Sarah's financial overview," I said. Sarah pulled up slides on the screen. Revenue trends, burn rate, customer acquisition costs, lifetime value metrics. Everything looked good, because Sarah was excellent at her job. "Thoughts?" I asked Kevin. "The numbers are strong," he said carefully. "We've hit all our targets." "You mean Sarah hit all her targets?" "Right. Yes. Sarah did excellent work." "And James?" I prompted. "And James?" "They both did excellent work." "While you did what exactly?" Kevin swallowed hard. "I provided strategic direction. I maintained relationships with key clients. I represented the company publicly. And took credit for everything," I added. The room went silent. "Kevin, I'm going to be very direct. In 4 years, you've accomplished 3 things as CEO. You didn't completely screw up what Sarah and James built, you gave good interviews, and you managed to insult your majority shareholder repeatedly while she bankrolled your success." "Emily, I'm not finished. The question before this board is simple. Should you continue as CEO? Robert, what's your assessment?" Robert shifted uncomfortably. Kevin's been an effective public face for the company. Investors respond well to him. The press coverage has been positive. But operationally, he glanced at Sarah and James. Most strategic decisions have been made by Sarah and James with Kevin's approval. "Sarah, your assessment." Sarah chose her words carefully. "Kevin's strength is vision and product intuition. His weakness is execution and management. He's been learning, but he still defaults to big ideas without considering operational constraints." James. I agree with Sarah. Kevin's valuable as a visionary. But as a CEO managing a company approaching IPO, he needs significant support. Or replacement, I said. Kevin's face went pale. "Here's my proposal," I continued. "Kevin, you have 2 options. Option 1. You step down as CEO and become Chief Technology Officer. We promote Sarah or James to CEO, or we hire an experienced public company CEO. You focus on product and technology, which is actually your strength, and you stop pretending to run operations." What's option 2? Option 2. You stay as CEO, but you acknowledge publicly, in a press statement to investors, to our family, that you don't actually control this company. That I'm the majority shareholder who saved NexCore from bankruptcy. That Sarah and James have been making most operational decisions. That your success is built on a team of people you failed to credit. That will humiliate me. No more than you humiliated me for 4 years. The difference is your humiliation will be brief and self-inflicted. Mine was prolonged and inflicted by you. And if I do that, if I tell everyone the truth, I get to stay as CEO? For now. With significant oversight. I'm installing myself as executive chair. I'll attend all board meetings. I'll approve all major decisions. You'll report to me, not the other way around. And if you ever publicly dismiss me or my work again, I'll fire you immediately." Kevin looked around the room. At Robert, who was nodding thoughtfully. At Sarah and James, who were carefully neutral. At me, waiting for his answer. "Can I think about it? You have until end of business today. After that, I make the decision for you." He left the conference room looking defeated. Sarah, James, Robert, and I spent the next 2 hours discussing IPO timing, board composition, and succession planning. At 4:47 p.m., Kevin sent an email to the board. "I choose option 2. I'll draft a statement tonight and send it for your review tomorrow morning." Kevin's statement went out 3 days later. It was published on Medium, shared on his LinkedIn, and distributed to NexCore's investors and the tech press. The headline: "The Truth About NexCore's Success." In it, Kevin told the full story. The near bankruptcy. My $50 million investment. The shell companies. The 73% ownership stake. Sarah and James's operational leadership. Everything. For 4 years, he wrote, I've taken credit for a success that wasn't solely mine. I've told stories about bootstrapping and determination that weren't complete truths. I've minimized my sister Emily's crucial role while celebrating my own. I was wrong. The truth is, Emily saved NexCore when no one else would. She installed the leadership team that made us successful. She owns the majority of this company and deserves the majority of the credit. I'm grateful for her investment, her patience, and her willingness to let me continue as CEO despite my failures to acknowledge her properly. Going forward, I'm committed to being honest about how we got here and who made it possible. The response was mixed. Some people praised his honesty. Others called him a fraud. Some journalists wrote think pieces about founder mythology in Silicon Valley. A few VCs publicly said they'd never work with him again. But something interesting happened. Without the pressure of maintaining a false image, Kevin actually became a better CEO. He started asking for help. He leaned into his strengths, product and vision, while letting Sarah and James handle operations. He gave them public credit for their work. Madison broke off the engagement. I can't marry someone who lied to me about something this fundamental, she told him. Our parents were confused at first, then slowly understanding. We had no idea Emily had done all this, Mom said at a family dinner 3 months later. Kevin, why didn't you tell us? Because I was embarrassed, Kevin admitted. And I'm sorry for that, Em. You deserved better from all of us. Dad looked at me with new eyes. Your consulting firm generates $40 million in revenue? Yes. And you own 73% of NexCore? Yes. So you're worth about $180 million, give or take, I finished. Depending on market conditions. Jesus, Dad said quietly. And we've been treating you like you had a hobby. Yes. We're sorry, sweetheart. We should have asked. We should have paid attention. You should have, I agreed. But you're asking now. That's something. 6 months after Kevin's statement, NexCore filed for IPO. The offering priced at $1.8 billion, 50% higher than projected. My 73% stake was suddenly worth $1.314 billion on paper. Kevin's 18% was worth $324 million. At the opening bell ceremony at NASDAQ, Kevin insisted I stand next to him. This is Emily Chen, he told the cameras. My sister, our majority shareholder, and the person who made all of this possible. He saved NexCore when I was failing. She's the smartest investor I know. And I'm grateful every day that she believed in this company even when I didn't deserve her faith. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said about me publicly. After the ceremony we went to lunch, just the two of us. I'm proud of you, Kevin said. For building Meridian, for making that investment in NexCore, for everything. Thank you. I wish I'd said that 4 years ago. Me too. Do you forgive me? I thought about that. 4 years of dismissal. 4 years of being called cute and told I was playing businesswoman. 4 years of watching him take credit for my investment. I'm getting there, I said honestly. You've changed. You've done the work. You've acknowledged the truth. But trust takes time to rebuild. That's fair. But Kevin, if you ever call my work cute again, I'll vote to replace you as CEO so fast your head will spin. He smiled. Understood. We ate lunch. We talked about the company's future, about Meridian's growth, about life beyond work. For the first time in 4 years we talked as equals. Not as the brilliant founder and his cute little sister. As two successful entrepreneurs who happened to be siblings. And that felt right.